If a Washington State driver's license or ID card is photocopied, the copy can take on a pinkish hue to it. This is a sample of the new enhanced driver's license. The basic information is on it along with a machine-readable zone as a passport has to be scanned at the border. They also have a RFID tag embedded in the EDL ID, which has a unique reference number and will not contain personal information. A new look to driver's licenses and facial recognition software will make it harder for identity thieves to do business in Washington. The new driver's license look. The DOL is expanding the use of facial recognition technology, a security measure already used in the Enhanced Driver's License Program, to safeguard regular driver licenses and ID cards. Changes to the driver's license are coming as well. By shifting the picture to the left side and adding an identical but smaller shaded photo on the right, the licenses will be harder to fake. Essentially, a math-based facial mapping system, the software creates unique facial templates based on each driver's license or ID card photo to identify potential matches of the same face associated with different names. From there, the Department of Licensing investigators take over the case, examining actual photographs and other information to determine if criminal activity, including identity theft, is occurring. Checking an ID is more than you think it is. The Liquor Control Board does what are called compliance checks. The way a compliance check works is this. The Liquor Control Board will hire individuals who are 17 to 20 years of age and send them in to purchase alcohol or tobacco. They use their own ID. An agent may already be inside to observe what happens, one might accompany the minor, or one might follow them in. Usually there is another agent outside. It is a very controlled situation. The problem is, 16% of the time the minor is served or sold alcohol. Half the time the ID is never asked for, or the other half it is looked at but not really checked. According to a Washington State Liquor Control Board enforcement officer, the many reasons the sale was made was because they simply got the math wrong, turned 18, not 21, couldn't see, didn't use their glasses, and they simply were not paying attention. At this point in time in our classroom education, I will choose one student to give their ID to another student for that student to check their ID. After they check the ID, they will usually say, yes, I would serve this individual. My next question is, what's the expiration date on that ID? 95% of the time, nobody can tell me the expiration on the ID. Or I like to find a student who will be 21 this year, but not 21 yet. And 75% of the time, the opposing student will say, yes, I would serve them. And I say, you just served a minor. And they say, how do you figure that? And I say, well, in December. You've got to check an ID closer. This here is called the 10-point checking ID card. There's 10 things I'm going to ask you to look at on ID. Now you look at me right now and go, 10 things on an ID? I don't have time to look at 10 things on an ID. You don't have time not to. You serve a minor in this day and age, the ramifications, both civil and legal, can be huge. Number one, you want to look at the expiration date. If an ID is expired, it is not valid. Number two, the photograph. You want to hold the ID in your hand. When you look at the photo, you look straight across. Remember, it's much easier to look at somebody straight across this way than it is up and down, because the way somebody's eyes are will never, ever, ever change. Number three, their year of birth. Number four, the day of birth. Number five, the month of birth. Number six, does the age match up? Is an individual who you're questioning, or even 21 years of age or older, hands you an ID saying they're 27 years of age or older, you might ask for another piece of identification. Look at their height and weight. Their gender, male or female. Just trust me. Number 9, the state seal. Look for blurred images, something hand-drawn on there. Is it the correct state seal? A partial state seal. I remember one time looking at a young man's ID, and I realized the state seal was a hologram that said an official seal of authenticity. And number 10, the 100 rule. On your screen, you will see a Washington State driver's license, and I will show you how the 100 rule came to be. This is Washington State specific only. Your driver's license or identification card will have the first 5 digits of your last name. If you have less than 5 digits, asterisks will be placed in, and then it will have your initials. If you don't have a middle initial, an asterisk will be placed in there as well. Right after your initials, you will see 2 numbers. Add them to the last 2 years of your year of birth, and it will add up to 100.